Hey guys, today in the Luvele kitchen, I'm going to show you how to use the Eclipse meat grinder to make your own pork, fennel and apple sausages. We're doing everything from scratch today, gluten-free and no preservatives. There's lots to do, so let's get into it. Sausage making is a bit of a process, and when we're working with meat, we need to make sure that everything stays really cold and clean. The first thing I'm going to do before I start preparing my ingredients is to put all of the metal components of the machine into the fridge or freezer so that they're really nice and cold once I start grinding the meat. Today I'm going to use the 8mm cutting plate, the sausage filling plate, and the 32mm sausage filling nozzle. The other thing you need to do before you get started is to prepare your sausage casings. Today we're going to use all natural hog casings, which we've gotten online at the Casing Boutique. You might be able to pick some up at your local butcher as well. I'm going to use the 32 to 35mm casings today. These ones come in a 10-meter pack. I've just cut off around 2.5 meters to make sure that we have enough for our sausages and enough for tying off. Make sure to follow the prep instructions on the packet or from your local butcher. These ones need to soak in water for at least 2 hours, or even better, overnight. First up, I have 1 kilo of pork shoulder and 200 grams of extra pork fat. Now, if you want to be really consistent and accurate, it's a good idea to use some kitchen scales. I'm going to cut up my pork and my fat into 2cm squares, and then I'm going to put it in the freezer for around an hour to keep it nice and cold. Now I'm going to dice up 2 green apples and 1 large brown onion. I'll sweat those off quickly and cool them down before we mix them into our meat later. Now that our meat is nice and cold, we can pull that out of the freezer along with our grinder parts, and we're going to mince this meat. To keep everything nice and chilled, it's a good idea to set up an ice bath with some cold water. You could also use some ice bricks instead of ice if you don't have any. Start loading the filling plate and make sure that you've got a clean bowl to catch the meat as it comes out of the machine. Before you turn the machine on, make sure it's secure on the bench and that all of the cords are out of the way. Make sure you keep your hair tied up, take off any jewelry that might get in the way, and of course, keep your hands super clean. Push all of the meat through the grinder using the tamp. Again, we're using the 8mm cutting plate. Once all the meat is ground up, we're then going to add all of our different flavorings. Our meat's all nicely ground up now, so I'm just going to put it into a clean mixing bowl and I'm going to add all our seasonings in. Into our mince now, we can add our apple and our onion that we cooked off before, and it's all nice and cooled down now. We've got 80 grams of toasted pine nuts, 1.5 tablespoons of fennel seeds, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano. We've got 3 cloves of fresh minced garlic and 1 teaspoon of cracked black pepper. Finally, we've got 15 grams of fine sea salt. Mix that really well with clean hands. I'm going to then cover it back up and put it back into the fridge or freezer while I clean down the machine. Then we can stuff our sausages. So while our meat's in the freezer, I've just given all of this stuff a really good wash with hot soapy water. You need to remember that this cannot go in the dishwasher. So we'll get the machine ready to fill our sausages, and then we'll load up our casing. Make sure you leave enough of the casing hanging off the edge so that you have enough space to tie them off once you're finished. Start by putting the mince onto the filling plate, then you can turn the machine on, and with one hand at the end of the chute, you can guide out the sausages as the meat comes through. Now, obviously, all of this is made much easier if you've got 2 people involved, one filling the plate and one managing this end. I'm going to tie off our first end now, and then we'll twist up our sausages before we tie up the other end. So now you can measure off 1 length of sausage and twist it one way. Measure off another length and twist it the other way. You can keep doing that until it's all done, and then we'll tie it off. So I'm really happy with these. This recipe is good for around 10 to 12 thick sausages. How about we cook one up and see how it turns out? So you know how to make sausages now using the meat grinder. There's no excuses anymore. Your options are limitless. So let us know if you try this recipe at home. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, we'll see you again next week for another Luvele Life recipe.